Lizzie Enders, you got Tiger Woods. He has a new documentary you want to discuss. Is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
It's a lot of truth. It's a lot of truth.
All right.
We're gonna talk about Tiger Woods, y'all. So, for those of you who don't know, who have no pulse, Tiger Woods is a golfer, the greatest golfer of our lifetime, the GOAT, even in my opinion, my estimation, even more so than Jack Nicklaus. Tiger Woods turned pro in 1996 at the age of 20. He won his first PGA major title, the Masters, the following year at the age of 21. So far, he has 15 Masters tournaments. He has been the number one golfer in the world. He currently isn't number one, but he held that title, number one golfer in the world, for I think a record of 689 weeks. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't have
He's
that
won
answer.
a total of
Wow.
82, has a total of 82 PGA Tour wins, tied for first. So he's huge, big deal. But we know, as great as Tiger has been over the years, there was a fall from grace. So this new HBO documentary called Tiger, it aired, the first is two parts. First part aired this Sunday. Second part airs this coming Sunday. Goes over and kind of takes us through Tiger's beginning, rise to the top of the game, and his downfall, and then his comeback. Neo, you want to play?
Absolutely.
When Tiger was 10 months old, I unstrapped him out of his high chair one day and he walked over and hit the ball. There it is. I said, oh my God, I've got something special.
I think Earl had the master plan since Tiger started walking. He asked me to ask his dad if he could play some other sports, but Mr. Woods said he had to concentrate on his golf.
I wanted to protect that sweetness of him. It was a quality that I loved about him. I could tell he didn't know what was coming.
Tiger was going to be this bridge between all the different races and tribes of humanity.
How are you handling all the adulation?
I honestly don't feel comfortable with that.
Earl taught him the mental toughness to tackle the game of golf. I'm not sure that Tiger was mentally tough enough to handle the pressures of fame.
He was at the pinnacle of his sport, but in reality, being Tiger Woods had taken its toll. He said to me, I think I'm going to give up golf and I'm going to get in the Navy SEALs.
That adrenaline rush, it becomes like a drug, and you're looking for that next hit.
For the squeakiest celebrity on earth, that spelled trouble.
Here he was in my bed, and he was my Tiger.
Breaking news that will rock the world of sports.
Tiger built himself up to be more than he was.
I have made you question who I am and how I could have done the things I did.
Have you taken any medications? Why don't you go ahead and hop out for me real quick?
What has Tiger done to Tiger Woods?
The problem with conquering the world is that the world is going to want its revenge.
He got clean, he got healthy, and he crawls out of that hole. This is the comeback of all comebacks.
Do not underestimate Tiger Woods.
So that was the trailer for the documentary. Again, part one aired this past Sunday. It's on HBO Max if you have a subscription to that. The second part airs on this coming Sunday. The first part deals with Tiger from the beginning. As his dad, kind of groomed him and trained him and coached him on how to be the best, the greatest golfer on the planet. And so my question to the panel deals with Earl and how his father, Earl Woods, raised him. So Earl Woods, in the documentary, he says, I know that I was personally selected by God himself to nurture this young man and bring him to the point where he could bring his contribution to humanity, where he could be the greatest golfer in a sea of white golfers ever known. So that was Earl Woods' strategy for Tiger. He wanted to make him successful. He wanted to prepare him for greatness. But my question to the panel is, do you think along the way he prepared him for failure or what failure could mean? Let's start with Rob.
It's failure is a part of competition. So unfortunately, if you're a gifted athlete, if you're an apex athlete, you don't experience too much failure, especially if you start shining at a very early age. And just from the trailer, I mean, he started training from the moment he could walk. So there definitely weren't a lot of kids that were competing with him at a regional level. He wasn't facing competition until he got to a national level. Let's be completely honest, because he was weaned. He was created for this. So I don't know that he was mentally prepared for failure, because I don't think it's something that he experienced very much. And that comes through competition. So he as he just kind of kept chasing it along, I think that Earl definitely prepared him to be an athlete. I think that he failed him as far as some of the important life lessons that you need in order to be a solid individual. That being said, if I was really good at something and truckloads of money started showing up at my door at the age of 20, I did not have the emotional maturity to handle that, and I absolutely would have supernovaed. I would have gone out in a brilliant flash. It's it is unfortunate though that these young people are given so much notoriety, so much fame, so much money that I can absolutely picture why someone so young would lose sight of what's good, what's important.
Yanni?
Gianni?
I do think he failed him as just a black man, like surviving and succeeding as a black man, like an individual. Not necessarily he failed him in the sports, like in the competition sense. That comes with it, like Rob said. Like to fail, he may not have been prepared for that, so it may have hit him in his ego in that sense, so that could have triggered more onto what he was already going through. But as a black man, I think that maybe even the father didn't have a sense of what that meant. Because I know that I did a little research, and I know that the father, Earl Woods, actually was the first black. What was it? The first black man, sorry, to play basketball in the Big 8 conference when he attended Kansas State. So, and he was a part of special forces, so he was a very accomplished man as well. I think that his father never really had a sense of, I don't want to say humility. It's not necessarily humility. It's just like the regular, maybe black man's life. And so with that, it's like we're maybe only exposed to a certain type of women or only exposed to certain type of temptation. So I think he definitely failed him in that sense. He couldn't really help him there. But yeah, that's my thought.
So I agree
I
with.
feel like he did live vicariously through his son a little bit also, with the whole grooming at an early age. Because that kind of reminds me of like those Hollywood stories like Michael Jackson and like I don't know if Kobe's dad did that. I'm not sure. But like just grooming them at a super early age and going really hard, which is not a bad thing if you look at it, but who are you doing it for kind of so yeah.
Yeah, and I want to mirror what a lot of what Gianni was saying. So, I mean, I'm not sure that he knew how to prepare his child for the fame, the ultimate fame that he received. So, did he prepare him? Probably not. I mean, all he cared about as his father was making sure he was the best golfer. And there's a lot of fathers like him, like Johnny said, living vicariously through their children. And all they really care about is making them great at what they're doing. But as far as, and I think Jacqueline Robinson said it great in the comments, she says, I don't think Earl prepared Tiger as a human being with good interpersonal relationship skills. And I totally agree with that. I just think that I'm not sure Earl had good interpersonal relationship skills. He may have, but I'm not sure he did. So how can you teach your son those things? He was so focused, and you can see it a lot in a lot of great players tend to be um, focused and they tend to be very arrogant. Um, and it's all about being the best at whatever they're doing. It's about greatness, and it almost becomes like a drug to them, just the accolades and I can imagine that greatness became like a drug to Tiger, and and there's no way he was prepared. But to be honest, who in the world is prepared for the type of um, career that Tiger Woods had, the type of fame that Tiger Woods had? I mean, it's nobody's. I don't know anyone's 100% prepared for that. So, Lizzie.
So I agree with all of you. I think my emphasis and focus when I say failure kind of buys into a little what Gianni was saying and also what my sister Jacqueline Robinson was saying. He prepared him very well to compete. He prepared him very well, almost too well, if you think about it, to compete. Because, and Earl says this in the documentary, he saw Tiger as like a messiah, as like Gandhi, if you will. Not only was he going to be the greatest golfer athlete on the planet, but he was also going to bring all of the races in the world together.
We didn't leave you much time. Sorry.
He was going to be the Kumbaya king. But what he didn't prepare him for, one, was being a human being, for being a responsible man, but also for being or deciding how he was going to be a black man or if he was going to be a black man. What's exposed in this video is that early on in Tiger's career, when they first signed that iconic deal with Nike, and they had the commercial with Nike where you see Tiger walking on the green and he's talking about how on some golf courses in America, in the world, he still can't play. He's still not allowed to be a member because he's a black man, because of the color of his skin. In interviews, he talks about being a black man and how that relates to a white sport, an elitist white sport. But then he goes on Oprah and he says he's not a black man. And so I don't think that Earl prepared him.
Did you know that, Gianni Storm?
How to do that. And so the black community, initially the black community loved Tiger, embraced Tiger.
Yeah.
But I don't think Earl taught Tiger how to love the black community and embrace it back. He had Tiger on this elitist white world path and was like, okay, I'm fine with that. And then also in the documentary, Bryant Gumbel brought up a good point in that a lot is asked of black athletes that is not asked of athletes of any other hue, any other race, any other culture. They're asked to be responsible, they're asked to be perfect, they're asked to be godlike, and not to have any other faults coming to the table.
Right.
Tiger wasn't prepared for that.
Right.
Tiger thought, as long as I'm the greatest, I can do whatever. I can do whatever to the point where I can even mimic my father, because they do. This documentary, at least the first part, is a huge indictment of Earl. And it talks about Earl and all of his mistresses and how he had a whole trailer of where he would take the women and how Tiger walked in on the trailer once. And here we have, 2 decades later, who does the exact same thing? Tiger Woods.
He learned the behavior.
He needs to learn behavior from his father. Absolutely.
He prepared him to just be what he thought was the greatest athlete on the planet, but not necessarily the greatest man on the planet, and didn't understand that the two go hand in hand when you're in the public eye. So that's how I think he felt him. But it's, I love documentaries like these. I'm glad that I didn't watch the second one before doing the show tonight, because the second one, it gets into the more salacious portions of Tiger's past with the mistresses and the DUI and the abuse or whatever, and then his comeback. And I have a lot of nasty things to say to the one mistress. I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to give her any shine, but who decided that, almost 12 years after the fact, that we still know her name and care about her. And so she wants to tell her story as if
I didn't know her name, and I didn't care about her. I'm just saying.
Like she is long gone. It happened. His wife beat his ass. We have moved on. But this
All
is
right.
how I think. If you watch the documentary, those are the areas in which I think Tiger Woods was failed from his father. His father, had blinders on. He only saw one thing instead of the bigger picture.
Right. All right, guys, make sure you watch the documentary. I want to get to these comments. So Kevin Brown says, definition of entitled. Kevin Thaxton points out special forces guys have poor interpersonal skills. And I have to agree with that because I had a grandfather who was a major in the Army, and he had awful interpersonal skills. Ernest Cooper points out Cablazian. Dario Winter said playing for Stanford helped, but he was not there to finish. Jacqueline Robinson said side pieces out there not knowing their places. All right.
Oh, snap.
Ernest Cooper brought up the term Cablazian, and that's what Tiger referred to himself in that Oprah episode.
He's Cablazian, Caucasian, Black, and Asian.
Tiger is multiracial. He is multiracial. His mother is Asian.
And he has a right to call himself Cablazian.
However, Neo, where was Cablazian when he was trying to market himself to the world? Where was that term Cablazian?
I mean,
where was his acknowledgement of that?
That speaks to society. That speaks to society because he could not. He couldn't. There's no way between the black people telling him he was black, the white people telling him he's not white, and the Asians saying, "What are you talking about?" he felt he was Cablazian, but nobody else wanted to tell him. Let him be.
Why not say it first and foremost? Why make money off of I'm a black guy?
Because he had no choice. What choices did he have? That's why society needs to change.
I'm a Cablazian.
He has to change so for society.
You know how he was criticized for calling himself Cablazian?
But that was after.
Yeah, that's true.
Campaign. That was after he made money off of the idea where he said, I'm a black man.
But he didn't control that idea.
Of course he could. Of course he could. He's, again, watch the documentary. He sat down with Nike, with the PR people, and mapped out this campaign.
Okay.
And so you get
I don't. I have to see the documentary. Yep. Okay, you're right.
So
you're
basically,
right.
he purposely pitched his black side more than what he felt he was.
And I'm sure a PR person came to him and said, "This is what we're gonna do."
I still say if he wants to change his mind and say he's Cablazian, he has the right to say whatever he wants.
I never said he
I might be Cablazian. Sure, I might.
Well, you're not. But last week you were white. But I never said he didn't have the right to say that. What I said was he didn't have the right to market himself.
I agree with you on that.
Black people.
That portion I didn't know that he intentionally marketed himself to be the black. If that's the case, then you're absolutely right. That part I wasn't aware of. All right, we got to move on. We got to move on. And we could probably talk about this for another 15, 20 minutes.
Shenanigans